Hello, fellow Inquisitors, Split Persona here, and welcome back to another Inquisitor Martyr tutorial video. In the last one, we covered defense items. Shielding, void shields, refractor shields, stuff like that. In this episode, we are going over offensive items. Mines, grenades mostly. There are one or two other items. There is the personal teleporter, which technically could go into either an offense or a defense class, depending on how you're using it. I choose to put it into offense because if you're running a melee build, this will work very well depending on what type of armor set you're running. If you're running like something that has a surprise state where you need to get in real quick and kill large groups of enemies, if you kill your group of enemies and your surprise state's still going, you can teleport into another group. So I chose to put the personal teleporter here. There's also digital weapons, which we'll cover that as well. That basically boosts your critical hit chance. So that is, they don't deal damage on their own like a mine or a grenade will, but they help your character dish out damage with their other weaponry. So we're going to go over the offensive weapons. Like I said, same as last one, we covered the defense, but this time we are covering offense. So we're going to jump into a mission. I'm going to show off each individual one, and we're going to go from there. Okay, so the first offensive item, yeah, I almost said defensive. The first offensive item we're going to talk about is the stun mine. Area effect, mine, stun, slow, extreme suppression. Places stun mines at the designated position. The mine detonates when an enemy moves close to it, dealing electric damage in a large area. And if you look, electric damage is counted as heat damage as well. So what does that mine card effect do? The character moves to the designated position and places a mine on the ground. A maximum of 3 mines can be deployed at any one time. Deploying a 4th mine destroys the first one. The mine activates when an enemy moves close to it. So basically what you're doing is you are placing little explosive charges on the ground. You can set up traps in narrow corridors. So right now we have a kill all enemies. And we see, some enemies up here. So if I place some mines here, you can see them there. Now we're just going to draw them in. And you can see they just detonated. Now they do take some time, but they stun them and they also deal shock damage. So they will do actually very well. If you have a large group of enemies that you want to just slow down, a stun mine actually does work pretty decent for doing that, simply because of that stun effect. The other thing it will deal a lot of is suppression damage. That extreme suppression, you're dealing plus 500% suppression damage. That is an absolute massive amount of suppression damage there. So if you have a big tanky enemy, and let's say it's like a boss or something like that, just drop a bunch of stun mines around it, and they'll start going off, and it'll stun it in place for a little bit. Not long, but you'll have a couple of seconds. It also slows them down as well. So you're dealing a ton of damage to these enemies. So, and like I said, you've seen how many I deployed. I believe it was 10 in that little group, and as you can see, they're still there. So if I wanted to, I could go up there, lure another group down here, and trigger these last couple that are still here. So a minefield, like it said, you can have a maximum of 3 mines deployed at any one time. Once you deploy your 4th, your first grouping will go away. So it's not that you can only have 3 of these, it's that you have 3 fields deployed at a time. Because if I go and say do this, well, they're still there, and this group's still here. So it's not that each of these counts as an individual mine. This counts as a mine field. The card's a little misleading when it says on the right there that you can only have a maximum of 3 mines. It should say mine fields. So that is how the stun mine works. Very simple to use, very good at clearing out, a large group of enemies very quickly, simply because, like I said, they're going to come in, they're going to get stunned, it's going to go and just wipe out large group of enemies, it's going to deal a ton of damage physically, and it's going to deal a ton of suppression damage. So if you have large boss enemies, mines work very well. So that there is the stun mine. Next, we are going to move on to the other type of mine. Okay, so the next one we're going to talk about is the remote mine. Area effect, mine, knockdown, knockback, better criticals, and demolisher. This will deal physical explosive damage. Places remote mines at the designated position. The mines can be detonated one by one using the skill again, dealing explosive damage in a large area. The difference between this one and the other one is, whereas this one had a slight delay and would go off automatically when the enemy would come by and stun them, this one's not going to stun them. You trigger this one remotely. This one won't go off, by itself. You can trigger this. So if you set up a corridor, you can just sit there and just keep hitting your action skill that you use to place the mine over and over until they're all gone. And what we're going to do is... come on, get out of there. We're going to come up to here, and there's another group of enemies up here. So we're going to place a mine group there. Now, we only get 3. But our icon changed. We have remote mine now. So, what we're going to do is we are going to lure them forward. Now, once they get to here, I'm going to hit my action skill again. And if you look, I still have 2, but that did a ton more damage than the previous group. Stun mines are good for stunning groups of enemies. It'll deal a lot of suppression damage. The remote mine will deal a lot of physical damage. And if you look, I have both deployed at the same time. So if you're skilled and you know a big boss is coming, don't be ashamed or afraid to go and just switch between both of them, and just fill the corridor with both types of mines. Because if you look, I still have both of the previous, groups that I set out. So we're gonna go. I'm gonna set off these other 2. I'm gonna hit my action skill again. There goes 1. There goes 2. And if you looked, I hit the wrong button. So let's just hit it again. And there. Now it reset back to the actual icon. to show you that you can use the remote mine. So when it's in this icon, that means you can deploy it. When it is in the actual explosive icon, that means it's already deployed and ready to go. Unlike, this is where the actual, maximum of 3 mines comes into play. Because, as you've seen, you can only have 3 out at a time, and then you have to detonate them one by one. So, with this one here on the remote mine, you're only going to get 3, and then you have to start detonating them. After that, there's really nothing else you can do once they're placed. You have to just wait, lure your enemies into it, switch over to a weapon if you need to, lure them into the corridor that you're trying to kill them in, and then once they get in range, hit the activation button again and just start setting them off one after the other. So, remote mine is a very high damage item. It will deal a ton of damage. Not so much as suppression damage. This one here will deal a ton of suppression, whereas this one is just going to be pure raw damage. If you want to destroy enemies, this one here. If you want to stun enemies and slow them down, this one. So it all depends on what type of build you're going with. So that there is the remote mine, and we are going to move on to the next one. Okay, so we're going to start getting into the first of the 3 grenades. So the first grenade we're going to go over is the stun grenade here. So, contact, area effect, stun, shock, extreme suppression, grenade. Anti-personnel stun grenade. And it does physical explosive as well as the shock. So, what is the grenade tag? Throws a grenade to the designated location which deals explosive damage in a large area. The throw arc can be increased by holding down the button. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to throw an item at a group of enemies, and when it hits, it will go and detonate. Unlike the mines where you have to place them on the ground and lure them in, this you can actually lob from a distance. So we're going to go up here, and we're going to just chuck it at this turret. And right there, it just instantly wrecked him. Now, here we go. Oh, I missed you. No! Go away, go away. Hang on. Let me take care of him real quick. Because they're gonna ruin the test. Okay. I'm gonna need to find a, Okay, there's another turret. So, what we're gonna do is, I'm gonna toss this grenade again. And if we hold this, you've seen there, he got stunned for a few seconds. And we did a decent amount of damage. Not a ton, but his whole purpose of this stun grenade... Let me pull back here. The whole purpose of the stun grenade is... It's to stun an enemy. It's to stun large groups of enemies, keep them from, moving fast, disable them for a few seconds, give you a few moments that you can go and just breathe, pull out your weapon, get into the group, and just lay into them with something a little bit heavier. This here is, in my opinion, where you start getting a step up from mines. Mines are good if you're wanting to lay traps for an assassin, I would say. I would say if you're running an assassin build, stick with a mine. You can lay a trap, lure an enemy into it, enemy will go trip the mines. If you're running something with heavy weapons, you're going to want to stick with grenades. Stun grenade is good for suppressing groups of heavy enemies. That way you can lay into them with your heavy weaponry. Something with armor or something like that. So that's where the stun grenade comes in my opinion. Very simple, same as the grenade, or the mine. Pretty much the same principle, except instead of laying a trap, what you're going to do is you're just going to chuck it into the middle of a group of enemies, and it's going to detonate. So that there is the stun grenade. Next, we are moving on to the next grenade. Okay, so the next one we're going to talk about is the fuse delayed grenade. Area effect, knockback, demolisher, and grenade. Throws a delayed blast grenade to the designated location, which deals explosive damage in a large area. The grenade explodes 2 seconds after impacting the ground. This grenade here I don't tend to use a lot, simply because of the delay. If I'm running a heavy gunner class, which I normally do, I normally go and start off with an instant hit grenade. However, as far as that whole explodes 2 seconds after impact, that's more closer to a mine in my opinion at that point, and I would normally just switch over to a mine and just rely on a mine than have it miss. So we're going to show it off here. And I'm going to chuck the grenade at this turret. 1, 2. There it goes. So as you can see, we threw the grenade, it landed, I counted to 2, and it exploded. Now, as you've seen, it did a ton of damage. So they do deal an absolute ton of damage, these fuse time grenades. So it's not a bad grenade. It's just I don't personally like the whole 2 second delay. However, if you know that a group of enemies is coming towards you or on a patrol route, you could chuck a grenade into that patrol route 2 seconds ahead of them, and if they don't see you, you can wipe them out. So it does have its functions. It's very much in my opinion, a instance weapon or a instance item. You need to have a very specific instance that it needs to be used in. Patrolling enemies, a group of enemies that is, they're going to be at a specific location in a specific amount of time. That 2 second delay is, not the best. If it had it where you could remote trigger it like the mine, I would prefer that. But unfortunately, like I said, with my type of builds, this one doesn't work for me. However, if any of you find a build that this works for, I would be more than happy to, hear from you, because I've never really preferred this type of grenade. So, like I said, it's very similar to any of the other grenades. All you do is you just throw it, wait 2 seconds, and then it just explodes. So that is the fuse delayed grenade, and we are moving on to the last grenade. Okay, so the last grenade we're going to talk about is the frag grenade. Contact, area effect, knockback, demolisher grenade. Throws an anti-personnel frag grenade to the designated location. Pretty much the same as all the other grenades. You're going to throw it at a group of enemies. You're going to just lob it in there. But this does have a little bit less damage than your timed grenade. That's what I said. It's not that the time grenade is bad. It deals a ton of damage. I just don't like the time delay. So in my opinion, the frag grenade is the best out of all of them because it's instantaneous that it deals the damage. I throw it and it instantly goes off as soon as it hits either the ground or an enemy. But it doesn't deal as much damage as the actual fuse time. Now, if we look at... Oh, now I gotta find a group of enemies because... Ah, there we go. Let's see if I can... Oh, there's a flame turret right there. So if I chuck this... just like that. We can see it took out half of its health pretty much. So this grenade is, like I said, it's very... There's really not much to grenades. Very simple to use. Very easy. All you're going to do with them is basically just aim and throw. So grenades, very simple. Frag grenades especially, all you have to do is just throw them in there and it just deals damage. You don't even have a stun counter on them. So these are if you're running just a big heavy build. You're a big tank. You have lots of damage and you're just dealing out a ton of explosive damage. If you have a passive that deals area effect damage, you are going to want to pack grenades. Because you're going to just deal so much more damage with grenades. If you're dealing a tree, if you're running a skill tree or a passive with anything that deals with stunning enemies or extending, debuffs or anything like that, run a stun grenade. Simply because you're going to get that debuff and that shock ability from your stun grenades. So a lot of it is going to depend on what type of build you're running. There's multiple different types that you can build these around. So don't be afraid to experiment. Don't be afraid to try out a different type. You may find out that you may not like grenades at all, and you may want to go with mines. You may find out that, you drop a group of mines down, and you use this, where is it? The disengage. Which basically allows you to fall backwards from a group of enemies while still firing. So if you can drop a group of mines, okay, and use disengage, you can draw those enemies out into that minefield while you're still backing up through it. Because, don't forget, you can walk through minefields. I think they're all the way back here. If they're still there. They should still be. Let's see. Yep, here they are. Yeah, after all this time, these mines are still here. So you can walk through this minefield and not take any damage. But if you use disengage, you can walk through it, no problem. So that is the end of the offensive items as far as that. We do have 2 other items, but they don't deal damage. We're going to cover them still. But they're not going to deal damage themselves. They are going to allow your character to deal damage. So we're going to cover them. And, yeah, that'll be, once we get done with those, that'll be the end of the episode. Okay, so the first of the 2 items that boost your character's offensive abilities is the personal teleporter. It's a surprise weapon as well. Teleport to the cursor. Maximum range is 35 meters. Now, I don't know how the game calculates the meters in this, but if you have the tactical view on, I believe it is to the edge of this blue border. I could be wrong, but I think it's to the edge of this blue border here. I think this is the 35-meter range. So I think you can teleport from here to here. But basically what this will allow you to do is jump around the map. But it also gives you the surprise state. plus 30% damage bonus, plus 5% critical hit chance, and 30% supreme dodge bonus for the duration. Now, surprise state we've dealt with before with the assassin. So you're using this. That's why I said this, in my opinion, goes into the offense. You can use it defense. But the fact that you're getting a damage boost and you're getting the surprise state and all that other stuff, this is having me put this into the offense category. If you're running a melee build, this is absolutely a must, I think. Unless you're running like a shield build or something like that, I would definitely say run a personal teleporter. So we're going to show it off real quick. And it's very simple. Boop! Just like that. And there's my surprise state. 3 seconds of surprise state. So I would have been dealing extra bonus damage. And it does work with guns. So if I wanted to go and teleport into, say, boop, just like that. And it's instantly just, you know, mass chaos on all these enemies. Let's just clear them out real quick. I don't want to deal with you. Get out of here. Come on, come on, come on, come on. I walked into too big of a group of enemies. Hang on a sec. This is what I get for charging into battle. Okay, there we go. That's that group of enemies done. Okay, so back to what I was saying. This here is, like I said, an offensive item. You can use it defensively, but the fact that it goes and gives you the surprise state and allows you to bounce around on the map is invaluable. If you have a build that relies on quick movement, this helps out a ton. So if you're running a movement build or a melee build or something like that that relies on the surprise state, definitely look at the personal teleporter. It could help out tremendously. It's a very, very good item to have. So that is the personal teleporter. And last, we will move on to our final item. Okay, so the last offensive item we're going to talk about is digital weapons. Self. Xenotech Enhancements grants plus 30% critical hit chance for 30 seconds. Basically what this is going to do is just what it says on the cover. It's going to increase your critical hit chance. So you're going to activate this and it's going to increase how much of a chance you're going to do critical hit chance. If you're running a passive build with your critical hits and you have this, you know, where you're going to be dealing a lot and you want to make sure that you're dealing the most amount you can with critical hits and the highest chance, you may want to run this. If you're running a sniper build with sniper rifles and stuff like that, a digital weapon may not be a bad idea because it'll boost your critical hit chance. You know, you're going to be dealing more damage because you're dealing, you know, critical hit chance. If you're going up against a boss, as you know, and you have a high critical hit chance passive tree and you have that maxed out and you want to make sure that you're dealing as much damage to that boss with your critical hits, you know, pop one of these. It'll go and boost your chances even more, making sure that, you know, 9 out of 10 or 8 out of 10 shots you hit are critical hits. So we're going to go and we're going to activate this. And yes, I am aware that this is a different level than what we were on, because it is actually, I had to stop my recording for a bit. Something came up, so right there, critical hit chances up. And all those yellow markers, those are critical hits whenever we hit a yellow marker. So every time we hit a yellow, and you can see there's quite a few yellows. And I don't even really have anything into, you know, the critical hit tree. Oop, get out of that so I don't die. So we are dealing a lot of critical hits there. And we're going to drop a turret down just to help clean up this little group. There we go. So that is basically what this does. It just increases your overall damage by giving you a chance of dealing more critical hits. Like I said, the only time that you may want to use this is if you're running like a sniper build or you're running a critical hit build. If you're running a crit build, this would definitely be the weapon for you to use. As far as what I think is the best item, it's hard to say. It all depends on your build. You know, normally for a heavy hitter like this, I normally go with a grenade. You know, simply because, you know, that little bit of damage. I normally go with either a stun grenade or a frag grenade. You know, soften up a group of enemies and then just, you know, finish them off with this, with my heavy bolter. Or I'll pop in with a personal teleporter and, you know, get that surprise state going. You know, increase damage, you know. This does give you a little bit of critical hit chance as well. So, depending on how you're doing your builds is going to dictate which item you're going to use, whether it be a offensive or a defensive, like we covered in the last episode. So each build is going to dictate what you're going to use as far as these items. So these here are the different offensive items. And that is it for this episode. Now, there is one thing else I did want to say about the digital weapons. I've never personally tested this out. I do not believe it does work this way. However, if anyone would like to test this out and then leave a comment, I would greatly appreciate it, because I normally do run, you know, tech adept class. But I am not 100% sure if digital weapon, the grants critical hit chance, affects your constructs. Because if it does, you could potentially have an army of critical hitting constructs running around. So leave a comment down below if you know if digital weapons does affect your constructs. Because if it does, I may have to redesign my build a little bit and incorporate a digital weapon. So, but that is it for the offensive weapon item types. So, thank you guys so much for watching. If you did indeed enjoy the video, hit the like button. If you want to see more, subscribe. It does help out a ton. I want to thank you guys so much for all the support you guys have given me. It's amazing. Like, I love making these videos. I love doing the content. And just all the support you guys have given me is absolutely amazing. So, thank you guys so much for all the love and support you guys have shown me. But, like I said, that is going to be the end of this video. And, hopefully you guys enjoyed it. And I will see you all in the next episode. Have a good day.